Hey, and welcome to my trigger-proof transmission. Please make sure you subscribe to this channel by smashing that subscribe button. And if you wait until the end, I will show you how to get access to my masterclass or workshop called Should I Stay or Go? Powerful training that helps you make the 5 transitions required to know the answer to should I stay, should I go, and heal these repetitive patterns without years of counseling or psychotherapy. Hello, trigger-proof Facebook community. What's up? I am super duper excited. I get excited before I do these Facebook Lives, especially lately, because I miss doing them. It's been a long time. This whole community, if you're new, welcome. It began last year when the COVID pandemic started, and I was stuck here in my apartment with a pregnant fiance at the time, and I didn't have any way of. I was bored, and so I just had some time on my hands. So I created this community and started to do Facebook Lives so that I could just, first of all, express myself. Second of all, I had to talk to somebody. I might as well talk to a camera. And I wanted to share all of the work that we do in our community, in our programs, that help people resolve their suffering in relationships, relationship anxiety, feeling disconnection from purpose, people who have attachment traumas, wounded souls who are stuck in relationship limbo, not knowing whether they should stay or they should go. Um, it, 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 the tools that we teach them um, go through crisis immediately. In that moment, I realized that this is what everybody right now as a collective is going through. In other words, there is a pandemic happening, and we have a collective sense of trauma, of anxiety that's happening throughout our entire planet at the same time. So here we are. I start this Facebook community and just do these transmissions. And just to get people into their bodies, to create a sense of calm when everybody was amped up at that time. So over time, things got so busy. I used to do 2 transmissions a day. Over time, uh, now we're so busy. I have a baby. I don't have time to come in and give my time away for free and just I don't have a lot of spare time. I'm working with clients, and I don't have time to do these Facebook Lives to answer questions. And I try to kind of gauge who is really genuine in their answers, in their questions, genuinely looking for help and assistance. And then there's other people who just want attention, and it's a little frustrating. So I try to man and moderate this community as best I can. And the very best way that you can get the most out of this community, which really talks about the neuroscience, attachment, healing, trauma, uh, creating secure relationships, going from divorced people who are kind of should I stay or should I go, anxious attachment, codependent type of relationships, who've been doing the counseling and the therapies, all the things, and the journaling and the meditation, and going, why am I still stuck? I haven't really broken my barriers. What's wrong with me? Um, those people are now able to come in and learn how to become what I believe is the solution to all of our problems, which it's not a solution, it's a process. Let me say that again. The solution to your problems is, and I'm going to invite you to write it down. Moderating sounds like a full-time job. Yeah, it is. When I have my clients in my community who are really keen and committed to doing the work, we have these questions, and I do my best to moderate, and I try to answer. But a lot of times the frustration is, uh, my boyfriend did this, my partner doesn't pay enough attention to me, and we have this, we haven't seen he doesn't talk to me in 6 months. He hasn't spoken to me in 6 months and doesn't return my calls. What do I, can anyone help? What do you think I need to do? It's kind of like, um, we want, why is he making it so difficult? What do I need to do? Can I get some advice? In other words, and I can sense that the advice is how to make the other person change. What do I have to do to change that person and have them choose me? Right? If you're always finding yourself in these situations where you just can't get people to commit to you, you can't get, you're feeling this sense of dissatisfaction, unable to actually communicate because you get triggered and you lose your shit and you're highly reactive, well, you're in the right place. But if you're asking for advice on how to make the other person change for you so that you don't have to confront all of your demons, sorry, you're in the wrong place. My name is Dr. Nima Rahmany. I'm a retired chiropractor. Retired. I just retired a month ago. I've been at the game for 20 years, slowly building my side passion of understanding that every patient that was coming to see me was because of an unresolved trauma, an unresolved wound, an emotional injury that was on the superimposing on the physical injury, right? And as a chiropractor, it's very frustrating, especially a chiropractor with an ego that really that prided himself on getting sick people well and being like the hero, me. When they wouldn't get better, it was a dig on my ego. So that little egotistic, narcissistic part of me wanted to find a solution. And unknowingly, it led me down a path to understanding that unless we resolve trauma at the root level, we are forever spinning our wheels, talk therapy, telling our story, woe is me, wanting the other person to change so we don't have to feel all of these horrible sensations of loneliness and abandonment inside. Why can't that person know that they, are hurting me and fix it? And we can then take the lens off of the outside world and then put the lens, like in other words, put down the magnifying glass that we've been using to look at the outside world and then go within, which is a very difficult thing because the ego doesn't want to look within. The ego wants to have an external fix within because it's too painful to go inside. I've been doing my darndest to rescue other people and fix everything out there and to get external validation so that I don't have to feel and face all of those uncomfortable emotions inside. So this conversation is entirely a different one. You might see and watch this video and realize that you're in the wrong community, to which case I say great, because there's some people that sneak through and realize they're in the wrong place because they want to stay in the conversation of blame. So I want to start this conversation off and let you know it's a very important conversation because what we're going to talk about is a very uncomfortable thing that will trigger you. And I used to give trigger warnings because, you have to be responsible and understand people have sensitivities. But now I want to invite you to hold yourself accountable to take responsibility for what's happening inside your body based on the things that I'm telling you and to understand that to pay attention to what I'm telling you right now, but when you're pay attention to what's happening in your body while I'm saying it to you. Because I'm looking in a camera, it's not personal to you, but it seems that a lot of people will start to take it personally because they will feel called out, even though I'm talking to this camera here. What's personal to you is universal to all of us. So I want to start that conversation off really with empathy to let you to help you understand that I'm not saying that whatever is about to happen was anything your fault. So none of this is your fault. So I want to start off by saying that because about once a week I get accused of being a victim blamer. We're talking about trauma, so we're talking about victims who had really shitty things happen. One of the women that I'm working with was in the Iran-Iraq war from age 4 to like 12. So she literally is walking around with stored traumatic survival stress in her body and trying to make relationships work when all that's happening. But at the end of this conversation, I want to bring this conversation into this conversation about trauma and then how it impacts our relationships. Because essentially it all begins with the relationship with the self. So, the first step, the first thing that I want to, hi Leisha, what's up? First of all, if you're having an aha moment or something resonates, please write in the comment section. I, I'm a teacher, right? So I'm used to having a group of people where I can engage and interact, and your body language gives me feedback if you're with me or not. So because I don't have that live, what I do is I rely on your participation with um, with comments. This resonates, or fuck you, Nima. This doesn't resonate. I hear that at least once a week. That's part of shadow work is getting triggering people and having them get angry at it, and then working through it and realizing, oh crap, shit, the truth really hurts. So if you're saying fuck you, Nima, then if you're feeling the fuck you, Nima, then you're doing it right. Then this is the exact right place. It's okay to have that. We're in a society, especially when trauma is occurring, that we really are rounding support. So there's support groups. And what happens is when we have a crisis, we want to gather based on our nervous systems around like-minded people and start to feel validation and support. And that is 100% necessary on your healing path. 100%. In fact, every single client that comes to work with us started off going to support workers like counselors, social workers, therapists that support them in support groups, right? But one of the funny things they noticed was as they went through these processes, it worked to get you out of despair because now you're in a group of people where you're sharing your woe is me story and you now realize, fuck, me too. I'm not the only one having this experience. There's a name for it. There's a label for it. Oh gosh, okay. There's fibromyalgia support group, trauma recovery support group. Okay. I'm not alone. That's great. But what happens 6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later? You're still going to these support workers and support groups. Still, everybody's swapping the woe is me story. And it almost becomes, let me know if you notice this, it almost becomes like a competition to see who has the worst victim story. It's unconscious, it's not done on purpose. And you then find yourself going to therapists and counselors telling your story, and then they say, oh, that was really hard, it was because of your childhood. And then you're like, yeah, you have the tears, and you leave there and you don't have any skills. You haven't learned the tools, you haven't actually addressed and faced and felt them. Oftentimes, the counselor and the therapist is just, you're talking, and it's necessary to talk to somebody, but the conversation is not done anything more than on a cognitive level. In fact, sometimes the talking is done to avoid the feeling. And unfortunately, there's no real way of knowing. But what I've noticed in my journey as a practitioner in the healthcare system is the way we're dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, complex PTSD, is completely flawed. It does not result in healing. And so I wanted to go over three. Now, you're not going to solve your PTSD with this video. I'm just a fair warning, just to manage your expectation. It's not going to be solved with this video. This video is designed to give you a new lens on what may be happening inside you and then within your relationship. Because let's face it, if you're dealing with PTSD, it's not just you that's dealing with it. If you're dealing with any type of trauma, and even if it's not labeled, you had a really shitty breakup that you haven't gotten over, or you grieving the death of somebody. Trauma is a separation. A breakup is traumatic. Just because somebody with a white robe, with a white cloak, the knight in shining armor, infallible uh, uh, patriarch kind of figure, doctor that ordains you with a label, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what your reality is, number one. And just because you didn't get that doesn't make what you went through any less challenging. But what I wanted to do today is to give you a completely different lens on what trauma is. And I first encountered trauma as a chiropractor when I would see patients coming in who got into car accidents. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm trained as a chiropractor. I don't really go into the psychiatrics in my training, but I would notice patients coming in after car accidents, and not only were they sore and they were getting whiplash and all of that stuff, but there were some of them that would tumble into a deep dark depression after their car accident, right? Like one of the clients that I recall, actually I have a video of it. I'll put the list, I'll put the link down there. I did a 20-minute documentary on it back before I went into somatic, so I've even deepened from that documentary. I'll put the link down there, where she's a patient of mine, and she got rear-ended at the corner close to my office, just a few blocks from my office. She got rear-ended there, and 1 week later, boom, she had a memory come up of when she was sexually abused as a child, and then went into complete shutdown. And for years, she hasn't been able to kind of leave her house or do anything. So a car accident triggered physical pain, which then obviously brought on kind of like a different state in her nervous system, which then would trigger old memories that are stored in the body that you're not maybe consciously aware of. But then, boom, when she was 6 years old, she was abused sexually by a neighbor. And so, boom, paralysis. And like most conscious seeking individuals, she went to the doctor. Doctor prescribes her with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, gives her medications, and then sends her to a psychiatrist who then gives her medications, and just around the system, around and around. Tried a couple counseling sessions, and she's still in this fight or flight. And here's the key: she's not able to drive by that. She's not able to make a left turn. She wasn't able to make a left turn at that intersection for years. Not able to do it. So I took her in and I took her through this process, and I trained her into my methodology of what I've discovered. And within an hour, we got into the car. And by the way, we had a camera. There was a camera. This is all filmed. You can see it. We had a camera, and we went in, and she drove and made a left turn and was like, oh my God, I've been struggling for years, and in minutes it was gone. I can't believe it. I'm shocked, right? And it was profound, the transformation right away. And at that moment I was like, I think I might have stumbled on something. And that was about 5 years ago. So in 5 years, I realized that I didn't want to be a chiropractor anymore. I wanted to delve in and become a specialist in this. I mean, what would you do if you were in my situation? You had that experience in your office after doing and taking her through a series of questions, changing the story that she had cognitively, and then getting into a car and being able to drive when all of her doctors, real doctors, her medical doctor, her GP, her psychiatrist, wasn't able to resolve anything. She was just going back telling her story, but still the trauma was in her body, and she wasn't able to make a left turn. She wasn't able to go in that intersection and make a left turn because it was too traumatic. Anxiety, depression. Another story case was this woman who drove down the street one night, and all of a sudden drives by this accident scene with police cars and ambulances, drives by, and there is this little voice in her head that said turn around. So she stops, turns around, and goes back. This is about 25 years ago. Goes back to the scene, opens, like walks by the police lineups and everything, and looks and realizes and watches as the ambulance paramedics take the body of her dead mother out of the car. And that moment, the police and everybody told her, she's 21 years old, she said, could you go home and tell your family? Would it be okay if you go? So she drove, her 21-year-old self drove, went home, and just told her brother and her father, Mom just died. I just saw her in a car accident and she just died. And her father just collapsed after that. And after that moment, boom, one thing after another: health issue, mental issue, digestive issue, everything. And for 20 years, she tried everything. And she's also in the documentary. I'm not going to tell you what happens. I'll put the link underneath so you can watch it. But after those 2 sessions happened, immediately it gave me the confidence to say, I want to leave the confines of my chiropractic clinic and I want to give myself permission to solve a dilemma that the healthcare system just fucking can't solve. And I had cases as well on that documentary working with PTSD patients from the Iraq War as well. I took this. We brought my cameras and we brought our cameras and we did and Stephen Gardner did a documentary with me. And so I've been really at this game for a while, and now I've begun a 3-year training. I've retired from chiropractic to begin my 3-year training in my somatic experiencing as a somatic experiencing practitioner, which basically is a trauma healing practitioner. I want to specialize in it. Already I was good. I want to be even better. I want to be even more effective and share the findings of my research and case studies of the clients we work with. Essentially, this group is essentially to heal trauma. I'll tell you right now, one must dedicate themselves to becoming trigger proof. Let me say that again. Essentially, in order to heal trauma, we must dedicate ourselves to becoming trigger proof. I'll explain a little bit about that. If you haven't watched the 90-minute training on becoming trigger proof, I go through the steps we take all of our clients through, but essentially it really is about untangling drama. This video, nice, going to the AA, it was about stories, totally. No education, directions, just here I am, poor me, and then, okay, thanks, see you next week, and we'll talk about it more. This is a different conversation. So the first thing that I want to share, three things you have to understand, is that the medical system, definitions, and approach to PTSD and trauma is completely flawed. I want you to imagine it like you have an experience in the war, like let's say you're in the military during World War II, and you see bombs going off. You experience what's called shell shock. You lose your bowel function, bladder function, and then now you can't sleep because your body is in this paralysis, fight, flight, freeze paralysis. Essentially, that is a normal response to an abnormal stimulus. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, implies that this is a disorder. But if you take any organism and you apply that exact same stimulus, the response will be the exact same. It is a self-protective, adaptive strategy based on a perceived threat. In other words, it's not a fucking disorder. It's actually a normal physiological response to threat. So by labeling you PTSD, taking you to doctors that see you with the lens of you're a disorder and I am this knight in shining armor to the hero for this disorder, you're the victim. You're the victim of a disorder. I'm the disorder is the perpetrator. PTSD is the problem. So I've been diagnosed with PTSD. It's kind of like when you say that, feel the energy of that. It's like it's this disease. It's a disease that has overtaken you. Are you kidding me? It's not a disease. It's actually an appropriate, adaptive response to a perceived threat. I want you to reframe it. Instead of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, I want you to completely change it. It's called PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury. It has a totally different feel to it. Post-traumatic stress injury, okay? It's like if you twist your ankle, it's not a disorder. If I take my ankle and then I twist over it, and all of a sudden there is a snapping of the cartilage, It's not a disease or a disorder. It's an adaptive mechanism that of the cells and the tissues and the organs of the body based on the external stimuli. Does that make sense? Why is that important? Well, if you don't first see this as an injury to be healed, you are forever labeled, as Eddie says here, with this disorder that you're victimized by, that you need this shining armor, knight in shining armor, with a pill, psychiatrist, to go in, which, according to the research, very few of them do any like talking to you. It's just diagnosing, oh, you have that? Here, boom, here's a prescription. Fuck that. That's not actually, that's not going to actually solve the injury. It's wiser for us to reframe it and recontextualize it. The word disorder, Shema, absolutely says, makes people think they're stuck with it. And that's the secret of the pharmaceutical industry, which is the one in charge of creating these diagnoses in the first place. If I create a disorder, oh, I'm a victim to a disorder. Oh. So the first thing you must understand is that it's not a disorder. You don't have a disorder. In fact, you're not broken. In fact, I'm going to tell you something that might bring up some emotions in you, is that there's nothing broken in you at all. You're actually working beautifully correct, given the unfortunate circumstances that um, have caused your body to be stuck with that survival stress in your body. It's an injury. Okay. And what do we do with injuries? All right, which leads me to point number 2 that you must understand in order to heal this, is that trauma is not about the event. First of all, it's not a disorder. Number 2, it's not about the event or events that you've gone through. Okay? Oh, you know, it's about the response in your body. Trauma is not about the event. Trauma is about the overstimulation of the body, in the body. How do I know this? Well, you take two people who were in the same war, who were in the same whatever, experienced the same loss, or two firefighters in the same burning building, witnessing death, whatever. The next day, one of them comes to work and is like, wow, that was crazy. The other one can't get out of bed. You understand this to be true. You know this. It's not about the event. Trauma is about the overstimulation in the body. And if I don't have the capacity in my body to be able to feel those emotions and move those emotions through me, through sound, through emotion, through shaking. I mean, you see it if you have a dog and there's like a little, rah, 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 there's a dog attack that happens and they start going to war with one another. My dog Lucy, it happens with her quite a bit. What happens 3 seconds later? She shakes and gets the energy out of the body. That is what prevents. What she's doing is she's releasing the energy. But what happens is whenever you have tears, whenever you're getting shakes, you've been conditioned to go, don't cry, don't shake, stop them from shaking. That's because the person who's trying to hold space for you can't contain their emotions, so they're trying to suppress yours, not understanding that in order for you to heal from that trauma, you must integrate it, which means you must give yourself permission to actually feel it and cry and move through your body. To move through, allow it to move through your body. Eddie, yeah, you're missing our sessions on the group calls because we're going much deeper into it, and the Hoberman sphere is a beautiful kind of understanding of trauma. And basically, trauma is when you experience a shock that causes your body to shut down. And now the only way that you're going to expand it is by being in a safe, understanding, and empathetic container for you to feel. And it's not about talking about it. You can talk about it for 20 years and still be like this. That's not going to solve the problem. You must find a container. When I say container, what do I mean by that? Space and time container where a group trainings. I use my program as a container. There's a one-to-one. Right now, you're in my container. In this moment, you are in my container. So I'm containing, like, this connection that we have. A relationship is a container. A group training is a container. Is by finding a container which doesn't keep you stuck in that story, but actually creates a space for you to feel and open up the capacity for you to feel the emotions that are disconnected from us when our soul leaves the body during those traumatic events, is to give you the space to be able to feel those experiences again, which you don't want to, by the way, by yourself. I highly recommend you don't do this by yourself. You gotta have a container. A book won't do it for you. A fucking podcast is not going to do it for you, because you're not, it's a container, creating a container where there's other people around so that you can borrow their nervous systems. Because we're all energy. Right now, you are at the effect of my energy. You're at the effect of how I feel. You're at the effect of how I feel about myself. If I hate myself, if I am in a place of depression and my nervous system is dis, you know, in dysregulation, you will be at the effect of it. You can't help it. It's just, we're energetic beings. There is a neurobiology of we. So in order for us to heal from the trauma, we can't do it alone. And it can't be done in a therapist's office just with medication, talking about it and not finding a space to feel, to open up the capacity in our nervous systems to face, feel, and move through those emotions. So you notice that healing will happen like this. Healing will happen like that in a safe container. You must be contained to feel those emotions, so that then you can then turn around and become the container for yourself. The younger parts of you, when you were a child, that were abused, that had those really difficult moments that were very scary, that were terrorizing. Those moments, your soul leaves your body. That's really what trauma is. Trauma is a separation of the soul from the body. I don't mean to get woo on you, but this is what it is. And the medical system does not address that. It's just not scientific. It sounds too woo, right? But it's true. You feel it. You've ever heard the term, I feel like a lost soul? You are a traumatized soul because of the shock. It was too painful to be in your body, so you left. And so what we do is we're lost souls looking for other lost souls, and nobody teaches us how to reunite. The reunification, healing from trauma, is essentially the process of bringing the soul back into the body by having an empathetic container. Now, if you go into the medical system and they see to you as a disordered person, that they are, the knight in shining armor, that they're the hero, um, there's a disconnect that happens between you as the traumatized individual and the practitioner. Because the only way to heal your trauma, truly heal your trauma, is to have a practitioner who is empathetic, who can actually join you and feel with you and join you and then lead you into safety. You must be joined there. But unfortunately, in the medical system, the psychiatric system, the counseling system, where everything is about lawsuits and let's just keep our nose clean and all that stuff, there's this impartiality. This is just kind of like professionalism, cloak of professionalism, that prevents doctors from really coming in with empathy. And here's the other part, is that there's no guarantee that the counselor or the therapist or the doctor has actually faced their own shadows and their own terrors to be able to empathize with you. And that essentially is what's required of you to heal. You must be joined by a heart that's empathetic. So it's soul work. It's a very spiritual process, and I don't have any qualms about even saying that, right? If you think that that's woo, that's okay. This might not be the right thing, and the medical system works for you. If you don't believe me, I'll show you many articles of police officers, first responders who've been dealt in the system and gone through all of the best medical care, and they are no better because the system has no fucking clue what to do, because you can't heal trauma by being separate from the individual. In fact, counselors, therapists, doctors, they don't have a stipulation that in order to help you, they need to have faced their own traumas and terrors. So if you want to heal, you must address it, not from a talk therapy, cognitive based, about what happened, but it must be addressed from the body. Trauma is not about the event. Talking about the event ad nauseum is not going to heal your fucking trauma. However, you must address it. It's part of it is talking, of course, sharing your experiences, but to actually integrate and heal, you must integrate, which means going into the body, gradually moving yourself into a sense of safety, and giving yourself permission to face, feel, deal with, and finally heal and integrate. Healing can't happen without feeling. Let me say that again. Healing can't happen without feeling. When I'm medicating you, I'm preventing you from feeling because it's scary to feel. You think that if you feel it, you're going to live with it forever. And I can talk about it and say how horrible the other person was so that I can avoid being with my feelings. But trauma is not outside circumstances, it's what's happening in the body. It's kind of like Medusa. When you look at the Greek myth Medusa, when you look, don't stare into Medusa's eyes because you'll turn to stone. That's trauma, turning to stone. So how did Perseus destroy Medusa? Well, here's how he did it. He didn't look her directly in the eye. Okay? It wasn't about looking her directly in the eye. What did he do? What's the myth say? He looked at Medusa through the reflection on his shield. And by looking at the reflection on the shield, he took his sword and he cut off Medusa's head. That's how you're going to heal your trauma. That's how we heal traumas. Trauma is of a breakup, trauma of getting fired, trauma of consistently being rejected, physical harm, abuse. We look at it through the lens of the body. By not looking at it directly, because it's not about the event, by going into the body, the body is the shield. We can look at the shield and the reflection of the trauma, because the reflection of your trauma is actually in your body. So without actually looking at it, we don't have to look at it. We can talk about it a little bit just so that we know, but that's not the important part when we work on. I'm like, all right, thanks for the story. Let's get into your body. And they're like, but no, I don't want to. I know you don't want to. You've been avoiding it and going to your therapist for 20 years just to avoid it. Sorry, I don't have time. I don't have, I'm not going to be, hey, let's see you next week. And, oh, yes, tell me more. Okay, Okay, well, we're done for now. See you next week where you can repeat the story. No, that's not how I do it. I'm like, we don't have that much time. We're actually going to stop trying to avoid the feeling with your story, and let's actually get into the feeling. And what we do in our programs is we create a safe container for everybody to actually go into feeling through the resistance. Here's the thing, you're not going to want to do it. You're going to be scared. The biggest obstacle is what if I stay there? I don't want to feel those feelings again. And what we do is we open you up, and slowly over time, through what's called titration and pendulation, into the terror into safety, into the terror into safety, back and forth. And over time, the clients that we work with, the results are staggering. Why? Because there's no story involved. It's just feeling. It's just tears. And what ends up happening is you start to completely transform. You completely transform your way of being. Hold on one second. I have a quick text I have to do. Can you? I'm a bit late. 15 minutes. All right. So, just had to make a quick text there. You have to feel it to heal it, 100%. That illustration, I'm glad. August was addressing as a client, which is a no pretty much consideration where it comes. His mom crossed boundaries, overwhelmed. Right. So trauma is not. So number one, I wanted to share why the medical definition was flawed. Number two, trauma is not about the event. It is about addressing it from a body-based perspective. It's happening in the body. And here's the thing. Here's the problem. When it's in the body and it lives in the body, it will get triggered again and again and again. And when you get triggered, okay, let me give you an example. Your father used to scream and yell and get physically abusive to you. You start getting into relationships with people, or you start working in your 20s and 30s. You think the problem's done, but then you're at a boss. You're in a boss team meeting with the boss, and he is like a tyrant, raises his voice, and all of a sudden your body goes into And the thing is that the event might have happened with your father 20, 30 years ago, but in the boardroom, literally, it's happening to you now. You're 5 years old again, getting screamed at and hurt by your father again. And it's literally happening now. And the problem is, if we don't address these, they get triggered in our relationships. Because who doesn't have some sort of an attachment trauma to a primary caregiver? And by attachment trauma, I also mean separation is traumatic. So if you like some of the clients we're working with, one really successful entrepreneur, her father died when she was 4, and she thought it was her fault. Her 4-year-old self thought it was her fault, put on the role of rescuing mom, became very successful, by the way, because of all of this, became independent because no dad, so she became her own father, became super duper successful, crushing it, killing it at work, but unfortunately, guess what doesn't work in her life? Relationships. She shows up very anxiously attached because of this attachment trauma. And here's the best part. She's done all the fucking personal development and therapies imaginable. When I first met her last year and she reached out and was trying to work with me, she goes, "Well, I'm seeing a counselor." I'm like, "Okay, cool. That's cool. Finish with that. Can we work together?" I'm like, "Nope, finish with that first." Because what we do is a lot deeper. We started working together, and on our first call together, I took her back to that memory to the point where she got shakes, and she goes, "Okay, I have to tell you something. That's the first time I had a felt sense somatic experience and release of that, and I've done all the therapies, like all of it." This little 4-year-old inside of her had a trauma. I believe we all have post-traumatic stress injuries. That's what we all have. It's not a disorder. If you you know, uh, I can give you so many examples. If you grew up in an environment where there was, where you saw your father, getting hurt by police officers, okay? Boom, association. Now, whenever you see police officers driving by, all of a sudden you get triggered. You have a post-traumatic stress injury. You don't have a disorder. You have an injury. If your mother, you grew up and your mother or father were alcoholics and it was a really chaotic household and you had felt like you had to take care of everybody and, look after other people in order to feel safe, that abandonment of self that you went through as a child, even though it might not have been physically harmful. One of my clients that I'm just the students that we're working with, her parents got divorced, and she literally became the surrogate surrogate husband to her mother, and the surrogate wife to her dad. So she became the surrogate partner. That's called emotional incest, by the way. That is traumatic to a 5-year-old child. having to be the emotional support to your parent while they're going through a dark time. That's traumatic. Trauma is not just with a capital T. Trauma also has small t, which is not having your reality validated, feeling misunderstood, not seen, not heard consistently. In my case, my trauma came when I was 2 years old. As a 2 year old, imagine your mother just leaves for 3 months to come to Canada from Iran to explore immigrating. Obviously, my 2 year old self doesn't know what the fuck's going on. I just don't have a mother. And I don't have the wherewithal to say, oh, mom's gone for a couple months, all is well. No, the story that I make up that's in my body is I'm not lovable. I'm abandoned. I'm alone. And that's trauma with a small t. The impact of that is, guess what happens? I then grow up not trusting the feminine, not trusting love. In my body, I have this deep sense of betrayal and hatred for the feminine. So when I start dating, I don't just date one, I date five, because if one of them is gone, I have to have the other ones because they leave and I don't trust them. So I show up highly manipulative to try to get all my needs met, become a player, but that's actually unresolved trauma. See, through the lens of the nervous system, all these labels that you have for people, narcissist, player, slut, alcoholic, addict, workaholic, and all of these fucking judgments that we have on human beings, they start to dissolve. And you realize that everybody, through the lens of the nervous system, is suffering from post-traumatic stress injury, not disorder. We're all dealing with it in various degrees, and it's a spectrum. It's not a fucking disorder. Do not let anybody try to tell you that what you're dealing with is incorrect to invalidate your experience. What you're experiencing is absolutely normal. If you understand human biology, it's actually self-protective. The question is, have you learned the skills in shifting that experience in your body and then in your mind? And when we do that, it brings me to number 3. It's a cognitive trick that I discovered. It was like aha, eureka moment that I'll leave in the comment section in my documentary that I did about PTSD before I even went into somatic work. This is before I went into that. But what I discovered is that you cannot have PTSD without the belief that it should not have happened. Let me say that again. You cannot have PTSD without the belief that it should not have happened. I shouldn't be dealing with that. Let me give you an example. There's a prison guard. One of my patients is a prison guard, and you know, and he's pretty level-headed. He comes in for his adjustments. He's a patient. Comes in for his adjustments. He's a prison guard. So as a prison guard, you see some shit, don't you? You see some pretty crazy shit as a prison guard. And I look at him, and he's very low-key, very easygoing, relaxed. And I'm like, don't you see some crazy shit at work? And he's like, oh, yeah, totally. And I'm like, wow, okay. So then all of a sudden there's a news report of a prison guard that comes out who's got PTSD, and um, he he's just fighting. He's angry with the system, total victim to the system. He's angry with his boss. He's suing all of this. You didn't deal with me. I have PTSD and da 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 da. Okay, so they interview him, and I'm watching him in the interview, and I'm listening to him, and I'm like, oh fuck, I know why he's got PTSD. It literally hit me. I was watching him, and I can't turn this lens off. This is how I view the world now. Listening to him, he's like, I go to work and people like they throw feces at me. I shouldn't have to go to work and have people throw feces. I shouldn't have feces thrown at me when I go to work in the morning. Boom, and it hit me. Now, I'm not saying that it's appropriate. Like, I mean, when I do my seminars, let me, full disclosure, if I'm in my seminar and somebody's pissed off and they take a shit in their hands and they whip it in my face, I'm not going to enjoy that. Well, maybe a part of me would because it's kind of funny. I'm not going to enjoy it. I'll be triggered by it, and it wouldn't feel good. It probably wouldn't smell good, and I'd have to take a break and maybe shake it off. I'd probably be able to come back and finish because I have a pretty good capacity now for bullshit. Uh, Doing this work, it's really expanded my capacity. I'm not saying I'm bulletproof, but I'm saying, you know, I've dealt with some shit. I've worked through it, and I have a bigger capacity, and I'm a work in progress. So I do have my limits too. So I'm a human just like anybody else. But as long as you have the belief that it shouldn't be happening, you have an argument with reality. The next day after I saw this, I sent that before I was complete. So you go. Um, so the argument with reality he had was it shouldn't have happened. So then the next day, my patient comes in, um, and I'm like, hey, by the way, you know this story? He's like, yeah, we know all that story. I know that guy, and da 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 da. I said, he believes he shouldn't have, he got feces thrown, he's seen some really violent stuff, and he's like, I work in a prison. These people are, you know they're in cages because they're, like animals. you know you don't uh, you don't blame a dog for acting like a dog. And I was just like, boom. He does not have the belief that it shouldn't violence shouldn't happen. Feces shouldn't be thrown at me. He understands that in the line of work he's in, or a firefighter who has PTSD after seeing that, seeing like somebody who's dead in a building, and two people carrying him out. One person has PTSD, the other one doesn't. The one who doesn't have PTSD understands that yes, as hard as this is, as a firefighter, as a prison guard, as a doctor, as a military person, I should see this. I'm not arguing with reality. I should have seen this. And simply by shifting that belief and understanding, and I know this is difficult. Are you saying that there should be abuse? I should have been abused? I should have been raped? I'm not saying, I'm not justifying the behavior. I'm not saying, uh, how do I put this? The future hasn't been written yet. The past already has. And the past is determined that you have gone through this experience. You went through this experience. You went through that, right? Now, instead of asking, you know, why shouldn't it have happened? Why shouldn't it have happened? It shouldn't have happened. If you just, for a minute, what I've noticed with clients who really want to abandon and let go of the label, that's another conversation. Most times people get identified with the label PTSD. There's a little part of us that doesn't want to let go of the label. I know that'll trigger many of you. That's okay, but my certainty exceeds your doubt about this. In order to heal this, we do an application process, because 80% of people that want the help, there's a part of them that doesn't want to let go of the label. And it's not your fault. It's unconscious. It's not like you're doing it on purpose. So we got to make sure that you actually are ready. And when I say, look, there's a lot of side benefits from keeping this label. You might get some disability check, or you might get support from other people. Are you really ready to take on a new identity other than an illness type of identity? Are you really ready? Because that's a tough one to let go of, especially if you got attention as a child when you got sick. Ooh, let me say that again. This is going to trigger you. If you had the experience as a child that the only time you got love was when you got sick, then you have a little bit more of a barrier, because now you have an unconscious, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm not victim blaming. I'm not saying it's your fault. You have an unconscious strategy to hold on to the illness and wear it as a badge of courage. How do I know? It's the people who talk about their illness first, my red flags, because I've done this work for 20 years, so I can see through people, and that's why many people don't like me, because they want to keep the illusions going. So I just see right through it, and they're like, oh, I'm scared to talk to him. I'm afraid of my truth. I've been bullshitting all this time, and this guy's going to expose me. Yeah, that's what healing is. Healing is exposing the truth. And a lot of times, not blaming you, You might feel called out. You might feel triggered. That's okay. Um, there's an unconscious motive to stay sick. Full stop. You have to be aware of that unconscious, and that's childhood attachment wounds. The only time I got attention, the only time I got affection, the only time I felt valued was when I got sick or when I got diagnosed, and poor me. So I'm going to revert to that any chance I get. If I'm feeling disconnection, something's going wrong in my relationships, and boom, I'm going to get like my my old strategies, which is getting sick, getting depressed, getting super duper sad. And I'm not saying you're doing it on purpose. I'm saying it's an unconscious strategy. You got to turn the light on and see it in order for you to heal it. You got to admit it if you want to shift it. You have to admit it to shift it, and that's very, very difficult. Um, yeah, the label. I'm a PTSD. I'm a survivor. I'm a whatever you put. I am a. You've become your identity. So if you want to heal from that, which it's okay if you don't, many people don't. They say they do, but unconsciously they don't. If you're starting your stories off with I'm a survivor, I'm a this, I'm a this, I'm a this, you might have even more work ahead of you because now you've assigned your whole definition of who you are by this thing. So to take away this thing, this entity, this disorder, this disease, is going to be very confronting. And there's going to be resistance. And you're going to say, fuck you, Nima. My psychiatrist says, and then you'll go back every week, renew your subscription, 5 years down the prescription, 5 years down the road. How you doing with it? I have a disorder. The doctor said. This community is about a different conversation. The reason why I started this community was because I was tired of going insane having this conversation, and I didn't want to convert anybody. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm only speaking to the converted. I'm done with trying to prove my case. I just want to talk to people who are ready to heal, right? Kristen says, this makes me uncomfortable and I like it. Yes, Kristen, and you took action, right? You took action. We saw you on the call, I believe, last night. You integrated, you faced and felt what was uncomfortable. You joined our container. You experienced the trauma. You released some of it and literally saw a shift happening within your relationship right away. People are like, why won't he do the work? Why won't he heal his traumas? Well, you can't tell someone to lose weight. How do you do it? How do I get him to do it? Well, you fucking get fit and you lead by example and inspire. And so we get people finally ready to do the work. They jump in. We work towards healing those traumas by integrating, by feeling, by getting into body, by getting out of story. Story is important. We get you to fill it out. But then we teach you how to untangle the story and to expand your capacity within your body to become a container for uncomfortable emotions. We don't invalidate them and saying, oh, I have anxiety, I have a disorder. No, you don't. You have a sense of alarm in your body. It's your soul that's left your body. It's that wounded child. It's your shadows screaming to you for attention to bring compassion to the parts of you that you have abandoned. And when you do, you become the hero. You become the medicine. You don't need a knight in shining armor. You don't need a savior. You become the savior. This is true healing. But it takes a container where you are surrounded by people who are in the same conversation and a guide who can step in with you and feel with you with compassion and with empathy. Many people are like confused because on one hand I seem like an asshole, but on the other hand I'm very kind and very compassionate and empathetic soul. I just I'm duality. I'm a paradox just like you, let's say. I'm just okay with those shadow parts of myself. And I have to use all aspects of myself to get this message out because we have a society of people who are asleep looking for heroes outside of them, talking it through in the counselor to their counselors and their doctors and taking pills at their psychiatrists and wanting the other person to fix it. And what I'm saying is we got to go inside. And the third part of healing that I want to say is changing that story of it shouldn't have happened. And to find with help how it should have at the time. At the time, what you went through, at the time, what you went through, as painful as it was, by looking at the history, okay, you can say, oh my God, Nazi Germany, it shouldn't have happened. Well, that's pretty ignorant of you to say because it did happen, number one. So instead of sitting here like fucking Pollyanna with my head up my ass saying it shouldn't have happened, it's wiser for us to go back in history, pre-Hitler days, and what was happening to the economy and the politics in and what happened in World War One to Germany, and why somebody like Hitler, it was the perfect person at the time, given what was happening, to to the perfect storm to make something like the Holocaust happen. So that by saying at the time, why should it have happened given the environment and the context? Context is important. You got to understand it happened because it happened. And if you understand the context, you'll understand why it did happen. And without understanding the context of why it happened, we are forever going, it shouldn't happen, it shouldn't happen, and not looking at the fucking context of the perfect storm of why it did. By examining the context of why the Holocaust happened, we can then prevent something like the Holocaust from happening. But not by digging our heads in the sand and saying, it shouldn't happen, it shouldn't happen. I hate people who are like fucking Nazis. They're fascists. I hate them. And look at what's happening to my energy. My energy is I'm becoming the hatred of the people that I've been judging as shouldn't have happened. It's a fucked up thing that happens with the universe. The more we resist and resent, rather than really appreciating and examining the context and studying it through a very, subjective lens and objective lens, through community, through one-to-one work, through self-work, you slowly are able to revive the soul. The soul then returns to the body. The capacity to be in your body during difficult triggers starts to expand, and now your relationships magically transform. You don't show up like a 5-year-old in your relationships. You don't show up like a triggered mess who's highly reactive, seeking validation outside of you, seeking that energy plug to the person outside. One caveat. What's the obstacle? The obstacle is it happens like this. And Shweta, you asked this question. Why do I keep sabotaging? I make progress in this trauma healing and I'm all fired up, and then I sabotage, I lose it. And that's part of it. It's the process of opening and closing. Just because you shut down doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. You just got triggered. It's wise for you to learn the process, not the solution. The process for opening up into safety when you shut down. It first takes self-awareness, going, I'm in my sympathetic state. I'm in my dorsal state. We train our clients to be able to recognize and then not judge as wrong. I'm in my dorsal. I'm in my sympathetic. I shouldn't feel this way. That's self-abandonment. No, you should feel this way. Why? Because of all the stored survival stress in your body that has you feeling achy, painful, wanting mommy, wanting external validation. But with practice and consistency over time, your nervous system starts to change because you're rewiring. How long does it take to rewire that code of trauma? However fucking long it takes. Progress, not perfection. There's no, did it work? It's progress. It's like yoga. I want you to look at it. It's not like, I don't have the disorder anymore. But yes, you can heal from post-traumatic stress injuries because we all are going through it. This is common to every single human being, no matter what race, religion, sex, whatever. It's the equalizer is we all have stored survival stress, trauma stress in our body, and it is our responsibility to expand it. And that's exactly what our trainings are all about. Have you dealt with any hoarding clients and come to any common reasons for these behaviors? Yes, protection. Hoarding is basically not wanting to let go, is the letting go, separation trauma, right? If you've had a separation trauma with your mother, okay, I'm giving you an example. Separation trauma from your mother, boom. What is that little organism going to do to try to protect itself? Where it's going to keep as much as possible to not separate. So hoarding is a self-protective behavior to try to protect us from the pain of separation, and healing it takes a skilled training to be able to lean into and open up and feel the grief of your separation. You don't deal with hoarding by talking about the hoarding. You deal with the pain of separation that hoarding is trying to protect you from. This is with everything. This is with everything. Smoking, whatever it is. And it is a work in progress. Stop looking for a solution and start mastering a process. That's what this group is about. That's what this is about becoming trigger proof. It takes, according to Dr. Shefali, a good year or two to really get good at healing those attachment wounds. Wiser for you to learn how to be the processes of doing it. And why? Because our relationships depend on it. Because that's what breaks the cycles of intergenerational trauma. I'm doing this for my son. Because the more regulated that I am in my body, the more when something happens, I'm not bringing my triggered self into the container of my relationship with my family, and it's not taken on by my son. In other words, it didn't start with me. It's been going on for generations, from my parents who moved, immigrants to Iran, from Iran to Canada because of religious persecution. Talk about invalidation. They are killing Baha'is in Iran. Okay, that's invalidation trauma. Dropped from them and now down to me. And so that's why I'm here. I'm here to talk to only the people that don't want to take the blame, don't want to put the blame on other people, but just raise their hands and say, I want to take responsibility. I want to break the cycle. It's up to me. Why? Because I've been trying to talk my way out of it. I've been looking for solutions. I'm a seeker. I've learned a lot, but I'm stuck here, and I really want to break through so that I can feel safe in my body, so that I'm not so clinging and needy of others for my safety, because I feel safe inside, because I've dealt with my post-traumatic stress injuries. And how do you help your kids? Well, by healing yourself, by dealing with all of your guilt that comes up for all of the shit that you think that you've done to them that's hurt them because of your unconscious behavior. You want to go fix them, that's your trauma speaking. You got to go inside. It's the hardest thing to do. And what I'm telling you, 90% of the people watching are just going to go, okay, click, that's cool, and not take any action afterwards. But for those of you who are actually keen on taking action and doing something about it, I have a link here to help you understand much better. That link there is called the Overview Experience, and it's next weekend. And what I do is I train you in how to take that cognitive story. We start off getting that story out, and then I teach you in a safe container how to get into the body, how to move it through your body, how to have those emotions. And it's a practice. And starting that process of what? It's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to feel one of these. Some people have life-changing revelations, discoveries, and other people, they're like, all right, I get it. I want some help. I'm ready to go dive all in, and I want your help. I want you guys to guide me up this mountain. I've heard enough. I've been following you for a while. You seem like an asshole. You seem like a dick, but I can tell that you have, but you're genuine. I'm a genuine dick. Right, babe? She'll agree. And so essentially is to walk you through those 3 steps to become a master of your own nervous system and become your own medicine, so that you don't need a hero outside of you. You're the hero. You just need a guide to teach you how to do it. And by the way, I'll leave the link to that 20-minute documentary right below. It's a fabulous one, but we've even gone deeper. And send me a DM with your story, only if you're serious about doing something about it and investing. If you're not willing to invest and put skin in the game, there's no commitment. You have to value it enough to actually want to put time, resources, it's energy. Without that, you're not really wanting, you're saying you're wanting to change, but if you're not willing to invest in it, that's that is the telltale sign it's not you're not yet ready. You might just want to keep that label going for a little bit of time, because whatever we're not changing, we're actually choosing. Let me say that again. Whatever we're not changing, we're actually choosing. Let me know if that resonated with you. Um, let me know if that resonated. I see some questions here. This makes me uncomfortable, and I like it. Was this relevant? Was this helpful? Join us. Those of you who are coming, I go through. I basically take you through whatever was challenging, the injury, the emotional injury you're dealing with right now. Imagine what's happening. Then we trace it back to its origin. Then we go up and we untangle it and then teach you skills to deal and manage with the anxieties of the triggers that keep coming up. I love doing it. It makes my heart sing. I left a very lucrative profession to teach this because it's the upstream solution to most problems is stored unresolved trauma. And I want to redefine and recontextualize how we approach it, because the way we're approaching it is not working. Um, it takes courage. So you have to be willing to do it if you're scared. I'm scared. It's okay to be scared. Um, but consider a life of holding on to that. Yeah, it's familiar. Yeah, it's the devil you know. Yeah, who are you without letting that story go? But consider the possibility that life is pretty fucking amazing when you can let go of that old identity. And who is it? Who are you going to be? Well, anyone you want. Who do you want to be? What kind of relationships do you want to have? How comfortable and safe do you want to feel in your skin? How connected do you want to feel in your purpose? How great do you want your digestion to be? How great do you want your sleep to be? Because it's all related. So finding the right guide is really important. The person that you're choosing can't just have a diploma on the wall. They have to jump into the wood, into the fucking muck with you and feel with you. And you have this asshole that's willing to step in and make it happen. Toby, who's been working with us, make yourself worth the investment. Thank you, Nima. Toby, you've completely transformed since January. You have resolved so much traumas, and we are a work in progress. And Caleb, another one too. Great work, man. Your authenticity is easy felt, and I'm glad I did 6 months with you, and you're almost another 6 months with you in my life. Big love to you. Almost a year of doing this. Yeah, big love to you guys, my fellow Canadians, and see you at the next perfect time. Let me know what was relevant for you. If you have any questions, concerns. Um, Looking forward to seeing you guys at the overview experience next weekend. Can't wait. It's fun. It's not all like I'm a bit of a it's funny. Like healing doesn't have to be like this heavy there's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of tears. This community is about feeling our fucking emotions and expressing ourselves. So even though there will be people that are not by that, express yourself anyway. See you at the next perfect time.